welcome. Welcome to another edition of Let's Practice, the show in which I practice and talk about what I'm working on and the ideas behind what I'm working on and how to work on music in general. And I take questions if there are any questions. I tell stories if there are any stories. It's just a chance for me to try to entertain you and add some joy to your day, but most importantly, encourage people to practice, because sometimes we run out of reasons to practice, we run out of inspiration to practice, and there aren't very many things that are as simple and joyful as practicing an instrument or working on learning something. So I think it's very helpful to spend some time celebrating the idea of practicing and kind of renew that commitment to working on learning and embracing the power of knowledge every day. Today, we've got a lot of cool adventures and surprises stored. I've been out of town for the last 10 days on an amazing trip with apartment sessions, and we're going to talk a lot about that. First, I want to talk about some things I've been doing on guitar, because I think that's always a great place to start, since a lot of you play guitar, and I play guitar more than any other instrument. The first thing I want to talk about today is this pluck and poke. I dropped my pluck and pick, my plectrum. Blah, I'm plucking and poking my plectrum. So, pluck and poke, what the heck is that? Well, it's a really poorly named technique that I like, because it really should be poke and pluck. What you do is you poke and you pluck. So you get like a nice, solid, actual pick sound attack on a note. And what I want to do is be really expressive with notes that I pluck this way. Now, it's kind of hard to do a normal, kind of graceful vibrato that way. I get like a kind of vibrato, but it's hard to be like, yeah, you know. So I'm trying to actually use that awkwardness and like kind of slide while I vibrato. So that's a good example right there. Now, what's the point of doing that? What's the point of poking and plucking? Or as I wrote, plucking and poking. What's the point? Well, here's why. Because then with the left hand, you can just play chords. And on the top, you can play cool melodies. So, for instance, I've been messing with this today. I'm going for a... You can hear that a lot of the times the notes kind of fart out. They sound like farts. And what I want to do is get them to sound a little bit more like music. And not musical farts, but rather musical people. Voices. How about that? All right. Now that sliding stuff that I'm doing there is, in terms of what I'm good at right now, that's like on the edge of stuff I just can't really do. But I'll show you some things that are really simple and really easy that I think I already got that will help further demonstrate why this is worth doing in the first place. So, chord. Might be cool to go. even strum the chord while you pluck. So I'm getting that note on top of that chord. Can you hear that? Yeah. Right on top. Ooh. Now, if that's not exciting, then we disagree. Now, when you do the pluck and poke stuff, it's great for like solo guitar when you're trying to just like create a lot of vibe and melody on your own. Yeah. But it could also be applied when you're singing. You could double your voice this way. So like if I was like and while you're here, you can do harmonics. Because it's the same technique as like plucking the harmonics. So let's see, what are you guys saying? Welcome everybody. Thank you for talking in the chat. Makes me feel less alone, and I'm glad to hear from you. So, we got some nice comments that make me feel good. Thank you. Let's see. It's like a tap, push, slide. That's a good point, yeah. And which of my fingers is holding the plectrum? Good point. So I just kind of cradle the plectrum into my hand the same way you would if you were like doing some switch to like finger style, or like I just kind of cradle it like this. It's sort of like a magic trick. Here's the pick. Where did it go? It's just gone. Nope, it's here. I bought magic lessons on Venmo. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm just cradling it, and I'm using my thumb and my index finger pretty much only. So I got it's nice because then I don't have to just throw away the pick. I can be like something about tapping, like the sound of tapping, is to me it sometimes it seems like it's lacking in like that like fiery emotion, the emotion of like sureness. The tapping sounds to me maybe subdued and accurate, and like sine wavy. But it's hard to get fiery tapping. I mean, it can be done, it's been done. But I feel like the pluck and poke here, you get that like insistence. It's like, hear this note. Whereas with tapping, it sounds to me like sort of like a monophonic synth or something, and it's like whoa, 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 and it's just got that sort of like feeling. But if we could get a little bit of that in there, that would be useful. So I think this is a nice way. Something to work on. So here's how that technique sounds with a backing track. slide it. Alright. My finger's getting tired, so I'm gonna move on. But that's the idea of pluck and poke. Next up, we got funky strumming. I'm sure many of you have heard of Corey Wong, who's the guitarist for Wolfpack. Corey Wong is influenced by a long tradition of guitarists who prioritize the percussive elements of the guitar above, I think, all else. Sometimes guitarists prioritize the melodic stuff. Sometimes people are all about rich harmony. Sometimes people are all about rhythm. And, we're all about all of them. But, you got your emphasis. You got your... everyone's got their strengths and their blind spots. So Corey Wong is... Since he's like my age and he's like making music now and I'm aware of it, Corey Wong is sort of like him and Nile Rodgers from, which I heard on Daft Punk, but he's done a bajillion things. These folks have made me really interested in improving the variety of, increasing the variety of tones and the percussive qualities of my right hand. So let's see if I can. So one thing I admire about those guitarists is that they manage to stay so loose and so relaxed, and they use that looseness and relaxedness to gain speed. So it's not an increased intensity in terms of the tension and effort. It's an increased accuracy while being very, very loose. So I'm trying to be a loose boy, but sometimes I'm just a constipated daddy. So let's see. One thing I'm thinking about now is it's hard to know if I'm doing a good job with this without having a rhythm to play to, right, like drums. And the other thing is also I want to be able to emphasize my upstrokes a little bit stronger. All about that up being the accent rather than down, 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 down. I'm trying to get up, 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 up. So I'm like, I'm gonna see if I can do that with individual notes. I noticed that I get a lot of string noise, a lot of extra noise, but when I listen to Corey Wong do that stuff, it sounds like he mostly is just hitting the note he wants to be hitting. So what can I do to improve my accuracy? Maybe I'll make loops that get faster and faster, because like I was saying a second ago, it's important to actually be playing to a groove. So I'm going to make something percussive here. It's actually hard to do that with my slide ring on. Alright, yeah. You can hear when I'm doing this that there are tight moments. They're like waves of tightness. Waves where suddenly I seem locked in and everything's going really smoothly, and you just start to feel that sensation that can only exist before words, really, that happens when rhythm is locked together. It's impossible to really describe, I think, but everybody knows the feeling when you're just in sync. Just like how that sudden moment where it's like, you're just in. There are waves of that, but then I drop it a lot. And dropping rhythm is forgivable. Like, I was always taught in school that that's like the worst thing you can do. And I mean, if you were to like rank priorities in music, like rhythm has to be number one, because like if you start playing out of rhythm and then you like really let the rhythm go, you're not going to be playing with the other people. And worse than playing the wrong notes with other people is just not playing with the other people. So for instance, if I turn this loop back on and I start improvising just in the totally wrong tempo against it, that sounds a lot worse than if I improvise with random notes. Check it out. So I'll be like, that'll be our tonality, A mixolydian. So I'll be like, compare that to now I'll play totally wrong notes, but with really good groove. And of course the groove, the secret of all that is the groove makes those notes not wrong. And you might wonder, why was I like also increasing like the variety and range? Because a lot of groove actually comes from high versus low. It's not just quantized versus unquantized, ahead of the beat, behind the beat. It's not just that, it's the way that we hear the high sounds and the low sounds relating. Like on a drum kit, the kick versus the snare. If I go da 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 da, that's really different than, and it's that separation of range that creates the groove, not just the tightness on the grid. So anyway, what I was saying though is that as important as groove is, with what I just said, you know, at the end of the day, when you drop it, when you miss, when things get loose and you miss, the only way that can really mess the song up is if you hold on to that mistake and are like, oh man, everyone knows I'm like not Corey Wong now. Like I'm so loose and I'm so bad at this. When the mistake sticks with you, it becomes a real mistake, because it starts to have this cascading effect into everything you play after it, where you go from essentially a moment of human slipperiness to an avalanche of self-consciousness, ego inflation, existential doubt sometimes. You can really mess up by holding on to a small mistake. So, with that being said, I'm going to go back to practicing my funky strumming. tripping on my spit. Okay. Try to stay loose. Try to stay loose. See what happens if I put a little more gain on it, if that makes it too mushy. Experimenting with looseness. It's tricky. I know I can be looser. When I get real loose, I get out of time because I'm just not as used to the muscle memory isn't there yet. All right. All right. So in my mind, there's a little disappointment. Like, it's like, when I got as loose as I wanted to be, everything kind of fell apart. And now I'm just processing that disappointment and trying to say, well, okay, first of all, like, you shouldn't be disappointed in yourself, because the only reason you know you're messing that up is because you're actually working on it. So you're not dropping the ball here. You're being very responsible and picking the ball up and being like, hey, you know what? This is a skill I care about, something I'm going to put effort into. So the second question is not anything to do with what I should have done till now. It's what am I going to do next? So, how can I get better at this? One thing that will definitely help is just doing what I'm doing now more. And it really helps, actually, that I'm looking at myself on my screen right now, just like you're seeing the stream, I'm seeing the stream too. And I can see when my arm starts to look more tense and where it starts to look more loose. This is what I want. The floppy fish, the cartilage fingers, the octopus that doesn't want to go on the date, the running away squid, shooting out the black poopy stuff. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the loose hose on the ground spraying water. I'm looking for the electric eel that's just decided, you know what, I'm going to dance it out. So what I've been doing that has been accurate but increasingly tense, you can see my arm turning into this, and I'm getting like something close to the effect I want because I'm hitting a lot of like dead strings and getting a percussive vibe, and I'm fairly tight, but it does not have quite the tone and quite the freeness and pocket that I'm looking for. And I know it's because I'm not loose enough. And also, there's a huge speed barrier on playing this way. Like, if we were to go at like a tempo like, I would have a much harder time sounding light and sounding free if I'm all elbow here. So I want it to be in. You can see like that's looking right, but it's just like I'm so much less accurate. So I'm gonna spend a little more time playing and like looking at my hand and checking, And I'm just going to do one lick over and over, because when you're trying to break down some technique thing... Oh, and we got a good comment, Fresh1098. I think you might strum too hard. You're totally right about that. I'm actually hitting the strings way harder than they need to hit to get that tone. You want solid hits, but they don't have to be really hard hits, which is a drum thing too. Like, you don't have to hit the snare harder to make it sound full. So what I want to do is isolate one single lick that's going to be my training lick for the day, rather than going just free all the time, just improvising all the time. So my lick is going to be like... How about that? That seems like easy enough and stylistically interesting. Alright, I got the open strings. Try to avoid that. What's going on? We got our special guest for the day. Surprise appearance of Jessica, Justice Cow, Kyan. So let's get her in the frame. Yay! Welcome to the frame.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I haven't seen you all day.
All day.
Jessica went out and got a bagel today.
That's true.
So that's where you are, and that's where I am, and you can see if you're in or not. Okay, what were we just talking about? Funky strumming. So anyway, the moral of the story there is I'm going to spend my time this week working on that one lick, trying to figure out different ways to finger it and different ways to get my loosey-goosey happening, and maybe work up to like a without losing my loose. Trying to stay loose.
Goose.
Yeah, because I was saying how like Corey Wong and Al Rogers, they're like so loose and they can go without getting tense, and I want to do that. And at this time, you'll notice like if I work on it now, I like the time, like the pocket is like waves of pocket, but it's not just pocket. There you go. It's fun to mess up when Jessica's around. Alright, so everybody, I hope that you get the idea and you learned something from that. We're on to our next segment, vocal warm-ups, which is a good thing for both of us to do. Jessica, it gets stale pretty quickly. The bagel. Referring to the bagel. Very nice. Give her a mic. Yeah. Here comes the mic. Duty. Alright. So now you guys get to look at this.
We'll censor your eyes.
Yeah, here I'll lower it a bit. Alright. Can we do a quick sound check with our pals in the chat? Jessica, can you say something?
Hello.
Can you hear her? I'm sure you can hear her. So, we'll move on now to vocal warm-ups brought to you by Justin Stoney, New York Vocal Coaching, who lets me use these warm-ups on the live stream, which I really appreciate. And you can find a link to his vocal course in the chat. It's the vocal course I personally have used. And there's no like sponsorship thing here, but I'm a big fan of the vocal course, and he let me use the freaking vocal warm-ups. So today we're going to do the warm-ups from the intermediate stuff that he has. So let's do a couple of these warm-ups.
Okay.
Exercise 1. Warm up. Tongue hum.
So this warm-up is pretty cool. It's the tongue hum, where you have your tongue out, and that makes everything relaxed. You're like, but it's a hum. When the tongue's out and you're humming, I forgot why that's good, but it is, and we're gonna do it. So here we go. Now, vocal warm-ups like those are really, really important. It's often the case that when we practice singing, we maybe warm up, maybe not, and we jump into repertoire, you start singing one of your songs, and you might find yourself a little frustrated when you do that. You're like, man, things aren't coming out as smoothly as they did yesterday. Or maybe you get to some high notes, and you're like, I'm pushing those notes a lot more than yesterday. And you get frustrated, and so what you do then is you keep practicing it. You keep doing it. You do it again because you're like, that's not how it's supposed to be. Let me fix it. And you keep practicing the things that are not feeling great that day, and it becomes really tiring. And then the next day, you're even more stiff. But if you practice a little bit of vocal warm-ups each day, it's good for kind of like resetting the board. Some days you're going to want to warm up longer, sometimes shorter, and you have to really pay attention to your body and the way you're feeling in the moment. Jessica, you do vocal warm-ups almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
You have a whole routine. What do you do?
I made a playlist of songs that start more like long tony and then get more challenging, but they're all songs that like I eventually want to sound like. So there's people like Beyonce and Sia in there who I don't sound like yet, but I am like working towards sounding more like them in the future. And I mix in vocal warm-ups like this one. So I'll have like a vocal warm-up and then a song called No One But You by the Goat Rodeo, where like the singer who sings these notes for the longest amount of time I've ever heard, and it just is like, is your love. And it's just like 16 beats at a slow tempo. And the whole verse is like that. And it's just these very clear tones, which I know from my brother being a horn player. That's how a lot of horn players warm up their lungs and their instruments, is with long tones. And so I have some longer tone stuff happening, and then later I have more like riffy stuff and louder, like belty singing, so I can warm up my the full spectrum of what I want to be able to do and keep working on those muscles. And like I have it get crazier and crazier, and I usually don't do the whole list. I usually do only about 4 songs and like 1 or 2 vocal warm-up pieces between each of them, so it ends up being about 20 minutes. And but then on those days that I want to put some extra work in, or I'm just like in the shower, I'll like go all the way to like see a chandelier and Rihanna's like Diamonds.
Yeah, well, I noticed you do the key changes in Beyonce's song Love on Top almost every day.
Yeah.
And that's like the end of the warm-up, right?
It's where like that's like the short version of it. Yeah.
So I feel like, so Beyonce's Love on Top changes keys
like 5 times.
5 times. So what are the chords again? Do you remember? It's like, what is it? Like, do you remember maybe the bass line?
I do not.
So let's see if we can figure it out. It's like, honey, it's you. What do you think the first key is? We can't find out because then we'll get a copyright strike.
Stars are away from here. Can't you see the glow on the window pane?
Okay, so like, baby, it's you. You're the one I. Then it goes like. You're the one I need.
Yeah.
The only one I see. Come on. You.
Yeah.
One that gets that all. One I can always call.
I need to make everything stop.
Finally put your love. Then it's up a half step.
So at the end.
Yeah.
It keeps going up by half steps. Yeah.
Can you show them maybe just the. Baby, it's you. You're the one I want.
You're the one I need. You're the only one I see. Come on, baby, it's you. You're the one that gets my all. You're the one I can always call when I need to make everything stop. Finally, put my love on top, baby. You're the one
Right.
I love.
Let's do that.
Okay.
We might lose our copyright. All right. Well, all right. Here is the. Do you feel ready for the? Do you feel ready to do this? Because you haven't necessarily warmed up. We could just do one of the key changes and show as an example, and then we're less likely to lose our money. All right.
Sure.
Here we go. Let's try it. So
from the chorus.
Yeah.
Okay. Baby, it's you. You're the one I love. You're the one I need. You're the only one I see. Come on, baby, it's you. You're the one that gets my all. You're the one I can always call when I need to make everything stop. Finally, put my love on top, baby, 'cause you're the one that I love. You're the only one I need. You're the only one I see when I need.
Sorry.
You, the one that gets my all. The one I can always call when I need to make everything stop. Finally, put my love on top, baby, 'cause you're the one that I love. You're the only one I need. You're the only one I see. Come on, baby, it's you. You're the one that gets my all. You're the one I can always call when I need to make everything stop. Finally, put my love on top, baby, 'cause you're the one that I love. You're the only one I need. You're the only one I see. Baby, baby, it's you. You're the one that gets my all. You're the one I can always call when I need to make everything stop. Finally, put my love on top.
It keeps going and going. All right. So.
It's more modulation.
Yeah, and 10 more modulations, exactly. So that wouldn't be the first thing you'd do. That'd be the last thing, more or less. But I thought it would be cool to show because I hear Jessica do that almost every day, and I can hear the progress. And I saw a question here earlier, can anyone sing? Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that when you hear Jessica confidently singing that really virtuosic line, I mean, I can think back to maybe 2 years ago where that would not have happened, right?
Yeah.
What has been your experience with improving at singing? Like, how much better do you think you've gotten? Like, where do you think you started? Do you think you were above average at the beginning, or what was the journey like for you?
I think I've always, thought of myself as a singer, and, I was in choir in high school, and I know from back then, I have memories of, people being like, okay, you're okay, some mistakes and out of tune stuff, and I've always, I feel like I got better at being, a background singer and, harmonizing with people. I think I can blend pretty well. And I think I've gotten pretty good at blending with Courtney and Bentley and Ben and myself when I have recorded lots of versions of myself. But I think that there was just a point where I was listening to music and I was just I would really like to do this. And I think it was listening to Lauryn Hill and her it's on the Miseducation album. It's the big song, the doo-wop one, but I was listening to that song and I was just man, her voice is so beautiful. I wish my voice sounded like her voice, and I feel like I can do impressions and I can blend. Maybe I could learn to get closer to that. And so that's when I made my first vocal warm-up playlist on Spotify, and I'm at my third or fourth one now, because I just kept on running into things that I was that's really cool. I'd really like to be able to sound like that. And but that was I think the moment that started everything. So I would just sit with the song and the lyrics in front of me, and I'd make little notes. This one I'd have some version of telling myself later this word is breathy, or this word has vibrato, or a riff, or is full voice. And I remember not knowing the mix voice part of my voice early on, and thinking that anything that's loud is belting
full on like a shout straight that way.
Yeah, and that is a lot harder to control, and it damages your voice more. And so I just remember working on Sia's Chandelier and finding this spot in my voice where I was I can be pretty loud with this, not as loud, but I can control it. Yeah, so I was going you know, just what? And it was what? No. But it's then I found I wanna swing, and I was just
good.
There, that's better.
Yeah, for me, that part of my voice, I wanna swing, instead of I wanna swing, it's it's a little more nasally. It's I wanna swing from the shen, and if I go, yeah, the brighter I make the falsetto, the closer, instead of or it's so it'd be trapped in the moment you met, and I can also put a little bit of rasp on that. Yeah, trapped in the moment you left, in the lifetime alive.
Yeah,
that's a little different tone, maybe closer to a chesty tone, but doesn't seem fully on falsetto.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really helpful to have a playlist that you warm up with that you're constantly modifying to address like your own goals, and don't just pack it with like showstoppers that destroy your voice. You know, the first example from Goat Rodeo Sessions you're talking about with the long tones, like so. Holding a long note like that isn't straining, but it is challenging, and it's good for you.
Yeah, and it's really helpful too. Also, singing like with it in a car setting or in a speaker setting where you can just hear your voice against this other person's voice and hear where it wavers. And it was so helpful always to record myself where I'm like a little bit louder, like I have the volume turned down on the recording. And I can just kind of hear how this vocal thing that I'm trying is actually going when I feel like fully in the zone with the song. And that's been like really telling of how far I actually am, because sometimes I'll listen to this and I'm like, I sound pretty bad, pretty out of tune. I can't actually do that run or whatever. And it's like, oh boy. So I recommend looking at those parts of your self that are harder to look at with recording yourself, and just noticing the things that you still have to work on, because if you just keep like working and you never are like checking, you might not realize that you have a long way to go.
You could be digging yourself into a hole. Like you could be doing something wrong over and over again and getting really consistent with that wrong thing. So yeah, that recording, I've also found it to be super important.
Yeah.
Part of our like deal being in bands is we get recorded, and it's nice to have experience recording your part before you actually go into the studio to record your actual album takes.
Yeah.
But let's do the next topic, which is minor pentatonic riffs.
Ooh.
Something that's easier for Jessica than it is for me. Let's try it. This is another one
Exercise
from New York
9.
Vocal Coaching.
Riffs and agility. Pentatonic
It's slowed down
ascending
because I can't do it at full speed.
Okay.
Alright, here we go. Follow along with a nice fast version.
Exercise 9.
It's very hard
Riffs
for
and
me.
agility. Pentatonic, ascending,
Working
and
on it.
It's hard for me too. Oh, I'm sliding a lot.
Too fast for me too. Ooh, you, you. You, you, you. You, you, you.
Might be good to have like a medium.
Yeah, I'll have to
Yeah.
make a medium tempo one.
Yeah.
So that is something that I really want to work on, because I do think a certain amount of my intonation issues that I have as a singer have something to do with this same stuff that makes it so I have a hard time singing riffs and runs. Singing with a totally neutral tone, la, no vibrato, no dynamics, no pushing, just like la, and singing complicated melodies like la, with as little like slidey feeling as possible. La, la. I feel like when you can do that, there's something with the intonation, with like singing in tune, gets addressed with that. Like a lot of being in tune is just breathing right. I think that another part of it is like getting the speed, the muscle memory to do speed, like to do something that fast on voice is pretty hard for me. Let's take some questions. So let's see. So we got, I'm just going to go through a few. Any tips for a better airflow? I find myself singing runs but they sound more you hoo 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 than just one line. Right. So the air, a good way to simulate how the air should be for singing in general, in most cases, is with a shh. So when you put your teeth together and you go shh, you're pushing the air out. To get the shh to hold, you have to push your air out in a pretty steady flow. And a good challenge to check for if you're pushing the right level of hardness, or if you're relaxed enough, if you're steady enough, is can you go shh for a whole minute? So I'm going to switch to the piano cam and turn this into a timer, which is risky because then people see my phone. All right, so this is going to be a 1 minute, a 1 hour. It's going to be a 16-hour timer. No, I'm just kidding. All right, it's going to be a 1 minute timer, and we're going to see if we can go shh for a whole minute. All right, here we go.
Just one breath?
Yeah, one breath. The idea is keep it consistent and not too much pushing, just a nice steady airflow here. Ready? Let's go shh for 1 minute. Here we go. Shh. I'm out.
Out.
All right. Maybe it's supposed to be 30 seconds. 1 minute seems really hard.
Let's try again.
Let's try again. So this time I pushed too hard at the beginning. Let's see if we can do it.
Now let's do a breath together.
Okay.
At the beginning.
So you don't want to take a big breath. You're just going to go. It's like a, wait a second, that kind of breath where you'd be like, hold on. Just like one little breath. But you want that
Really?
breath to
A
expand
little
your
breath?
diaphragm. Yeah, because when you go like, you tense up. The shoulders go up.
But what if you just...
I found that to impede, but I'm not an expert, so let's experiment. So
Okay.
you try
I'll do
that,
that.
and let me know how it goes.
I'm
So
gonna fill my belly.
my breath is going to be like, just like that. So here we go. All right. I had to swallow there, but I got through at least more than last time. Maybe it's supposed to be 30 seconds. I don't know. I don't want to find out because I'll have to look at copyrighted stuff. Exhales for 16. All right, so Alien Spore Bomb, during choir warm-ups, Alien Spore Bomb did exhales for 16 seconds. Let's try that. See what that's like. So here's going to be 16 second exhales.
Okay.
To get the breathing, because remember the question we're addressing here is how should the breathing feel so it's not like hoo 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 hoo. It should be like this steady shh, like hoo 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 hoo.
Ooh.
The air that during that whole thing is just a straight line, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I do think though that for pitch, especially when it's too fast, it is easier to go like la 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 la. And
separate with consonants.
I think that is more important to do than to go la and slide. So
la,
if
la
if
la
you're-
la la la.
if you're at a point where you can't hit all the notes, I've found when I'm at that point, I switch to la 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 la.
Interesting.
Rather than just a slide. Yeah.
So by doing that, you also address the hoo 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 problem, because you're separating the notes by consonants. La 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 ta 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 ta. So that's nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very useful. So let's do 16 second, 16 hour.
minute.
Let's do 16.
What are David Blaine?
Let's run across the United States barefoot. Here we go. 16 second exhales.
Okay.
All right. Nice. Here's another one. I see. There's a really cool advantage to doing that, which is that the breath you take in after that is probably the right kind of breath. It's going to be from the diaphragm. It kind of has to be if you're going to compensate, like if you're going to go and do that again. So 16 second exhales, that's a nice one. Thank you very much for that. Alien Spore Bomb. All right, so. All right. Let's look for some more questions. So. Oh, yeah. Let's see. We got. Ben, how do you manage to be yourself? Where I live, people do a great job of putting down others because of their own insecurities. Honestly, you have to practice being yourself, even though it's yourself. There's this idea of who you are, this self, and I think we have this idea of what's the true self. But I think there isn't such a natural true self that's just so like it's just always there. I think what happens more is like you have maybe an instinct about what feels good and bad, and you sort of figure it out. Like you figure out when I act this way, I feel free. When I act this way, I feel enclosed, and you sort of figure out like what is with the grain for you. But I don't think we all just know by default how we should be acting to be ourselves, because I think for me, like if I'm like really, really hamming it up and being super goofy, I'm probably having the most fun, but it doesn't mean I feel the most comfortable. I think for me, maximum comfort is when I'm goofy when I want and I'm not goofy when I want, and I don't feel pressure to be either one. So maybe my natural self isn't necessarily goofy, but it isn't necessarily ungoofy. So figuring out what feels right, and then like going from there is a nice way to discover who you are. And then I'll add one more thing to that, which is when you're around other people who feel insecure, you can see them as bringing you down, but you could also see yourself as bringing them up.
Yeah. Something that I have found is I like to do the whole thing where I heard this once from the show Queer Eye. Karama was talking about, I think, his grandma, and she said something along the lines of like, buy me flowers now, not when I die. Like I'd rather enjoy these flowers as an alive person. And I think that's, you can do that kind of thing. You can show someone how much you appreciate them like in the moment, and I've been trying to do that more and more, and I think that makes people feel less insecure in general. So like when someone like does something really funny, like just being like, oh man, that was really funny, like after the fact, being like, that was a great joke. Or if someone does something really nice, just being like, wow, like that actually really meant a lot to me. Like if you have like those one-on-one interactions where you're like affirming that something they did was good and got to you, I found that you make like really strong friendships really fast, and can like show these more vulnerable sides of yourself, and they can show their more vulnerable sides too. And I think like you're not gonna change anybody necessarily, but I think it's a hard thing to do, to be yourself all the time, and maybe you just try it for like 5 minutes a day at first. You just are like, I'm gonna be completely myself
for 5
minutes, and then I'll go back to pretending, and then you extend it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to make like a regimen for it, but it's also hard. It's hard to know what to do. It's hard to not be yourself. Yeah, I'd say. Right. That's a hard thing. If something feels hard, it might be. Well, sometimes good things feel hard. Like sometimes it's good to do something even though it's hard. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to be like really specific, but I would encourage you to keep trying, because when people are their full selves, I think we have a much more exciting world. It makes life more worth living when you just don't know, when you realize how little you know about other people, because there's like whole worlds in all of us that never see the surface. But if more of our inner worlds came out, then parties would be more fun. So the question I'd like to answer, a couple more. Would Bentley ever come to Scotland? Our band Bentley has gone to Scotland. We went to Glasgow, and we'll come again. Yeah. And then also Liquefaction 842. I have a really low voice. Do you think transposing down an octave to have a song in my chest voice range is cheating? Definitely not, because it's really all about you and your tone and your expression and sounding comfortable, much more than it is about range. Like, we all like a good wide range, but at the end of the day, it's about the song and the story and the character singing it. Life isn't a big American Idol contest. You don't have to do a showstopper and knock everyone out with your virtuosity. You have to appeal to their empathy and be a human.
Bacon.
Yeah. All right. So. Matt LaPierre says, your inner world is why these streams are fun. I will agree with you on that. When I'm more myself and more comfortable, the streams are better. And Olivia, what's up? Is Ben Levin Group going to tour ever? Yeah. It's just hard to know when. We're doing Bentley full on, so you can't go organizing a ton of tours while you're doing Bentley full on. But, there are months off that someday, yeah. We're always gonna make an album every year, new album. You can count on that. I miss you too, Thomas. Good to hear from you. Hope your memes are going well. Hope your singing's going well. Yay! We got the next topic, which is very special for this week. The apartment sessions recap. So, Jessica and I were just on an epic adventure. We went to Atlanta for 10 days to record like 11 or 12 sessions with apartment sessions. Now, who here is familiar with apartment sessions? Probably many of you, but probably not all of you. I'm going to show you an apartment session that I did back in the day, in the past, and after the skip ad. All right, check this out. So, apartment sessions is this amazing thing. All right. This is my song Grown Up. As you can see here, there are many people stuffed in a small space. There's Gene Shinozaki doing beatboxing. The mic is rotating from source to source. They put a timpani in a Brooklyn apartment up 3 flights of stairs.
People now.
A lot of these people are the people we went to the trip with. That's actually me. A whole choir with Jessica in there. Just a lot of talented folks. In the bathroom. So Apartment Sessions is this wonderful YouTube channel that is what's really more than a YouTube channel, and what it is a collective of 100+ musicians who. It's like an ever-expanding collective. It's not like some exclusive club of more than 100 musicians who all get together to record these 3-hour sessions where you're basically sight reading these awesome arrangements of people's music where like they take an artist's music, in this case it was my song, and they arrange it for you. And they make an amazing arrangement. And then you show up, and there's just a ton of Broadway musicians, like Juilliard grads, people who have, like, incredible, unique musical voices. And then people who are, like, they don't necessarily have, like, a fancy resume, but they're, like, diamonds in the rough. They're, like, these folks who... one way or another have learned to be incredibly badass musicians. So it's not always academic people who like went through the system of academic music. These are folks who are just drawn to music, and the Apartment Sessions environment brings out the best sounds out of them. So we went to Georgia for 10 days and filmed a whole bunch of these sessions at some of the Apartment Sessions founders, like childhood, like homes
Yeah.
basically, and with their friends. And the point might seem like to make really cool music videos of really cool performances, but I think the point really is like to basically, in a way, save the New York music scene from its depressive state and then bring the lessons learned from that project to other places, like Atlanta in this case. Because New York, from what I've always understood of it, is a really competitive scene where there's a lot of dog-eat-dog stuff. There's a lot of cutting heads, like the open mics the jam sessions are like really, like you're on a stage, you know the song or get off the stage. And they're like a lot of people like stealing gigs, taking gigs, every man or woman for themselves. And like, but my impression of New York has totally changed since I started working with the Apartment Sessions people.
Yeah.
It's much more of a hang in a place like where everyone's getting each other gigs, like everyone's giving each other opportunities. It actually makes New York seem like a place I'd want to live rather than a place to go to. Like, we both love New York.
Yeah.
But it's just really kind of intimidating in terms of the amount that you feel so small and there's so many people everywhere.
And just you get overwhelmed by how much is going on all the time. Like, if you think about it, like there are plenty of like gas stations in the middle of nowhere that, you know, aren't open 24 hours, that have like really abrasive LED lights, you know, while they're open, and then they close and it's fine, you just drive by. But like New York is open 24 hours mostly, and those abrasive lights don't stop. And imagine like living across the street and just like having that be like what you wake up to, what you like go to sleep to. And just like the amount of sounds and smells and people and experiences and lights can be a lot, especially if you don't feel well. Can I tell my story when I got sick once?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a really bad bloody nose, and I've always had like bloody noses, and this one was particularly bad because I couldn't stop it, and I like was looking at my phone figuring out how to stop it, like while it was happening. That's how long it was bleeding. Like, what else can I try? And I found out I was doing a lot of things wrong, but you're not supposed to like lay down, and you're not supposed to put things up your nose so a blood clot like sticks to them. You're supposed to just pinch the bottom, keep your like head up, and it eventually stops. But it took me about like an hour, just my nose bleeding and swallowing all of that blood to get to that point. So I had swallowed so much blood, and I was so faint, and I had to meet Bent Knee for a show, and so I ended up just like traveling on a train and like waiting for them across the street, and then throwing up blood in the street, and it's so gross. It was
this
like,
is your New York story.
Yeah, it was just like I remember feeling like on the train, like just this sucks so much to feel bad here. It's fine to feel fine there, but all of the little things really get to you.
We have a complicated relationship with New York.
Yeah.
But Apartment Sessions really makes it magic.
It makes me want to go there.
Yeah.
Live there and do that all the time.
So we went to Georgia and we did all these sessions, and the thing that's most relevant to this Let's Practice show is that inherent with the project is sight reading a lot of music, learning a bunch of songs really fast. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the ways that Apartment Sessions, the people who organize it, the ways they made it that actually easier than it could have been for all of us. And to do that, I want to go through some of the charts that we looked at. So here is an example of one of my charts. Oops, I'm trying to scratch out the names and stuff because I don't want to like give away their like scheduled releases. I forgot to scratch that out, but all right. Anyway, what we have here is a really nice looking chart. I'm not a great reader, and so I was pretty worried, and so was Jessica, about like if we would be able to hang and if we'd be able to read all this. But this chart does not look scary. It looks achievable, and even if you look at like this part where they have the 16th notes and you feel intimidated by it, when you actually go in and look at what those things are, they're things that are very natural on guitar.
Also, the tempo is 70.
The tempo is 70.
So
that really helps.
16th notes are a lot less frightening.
So here's 70. I'm going to pull it up on my metronome, my marchinome, and here you can't hear it. So that's it. I'm not going to do it. But it's like this, I think. Dot, 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 dot. Okay. So this is dot, 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 dot. Now, if you're going to play that on guitar, it ends up just being a pretty simple thing. It's A, open B string, A up an octave. So if you're not a great sight reader, which is the case for me, that part is organized in a way that it's easy enough to learn. It's like easy enough to memorize. So you can actually look at your hands while you play this part because it's laid out in a really logical way. A couple other things that are really good about the way they lay out charts is that they chunk up the measures in ways that reflect what you hear. So this first 4 bars of rest is like an instrumental intro, and then in A the vocals come in. So even if you weren't paying attention at the beginning or a little confused here, you know when you're on beat 1 of A, and then the 8 beats happens, and then bam, you have an entrance. Now this was actually a hard moment in the chart, even though it's so easy looking, because the other guitarist who's sitting next to me, his part was displaced. So I came in on beat 2, and he came in on the and of 2. So I would play, and then he would play, and we'd have the same notes, but it was to create a delay effect, like an echo effect. And the song's about echoes and stuff. So that was like something that could potentially have been very hard to play because of confusion, but because it's so well notated and it's such a clear, solid part, it worked really well. Here you see a very helpful chord chart. Not necessary, actually. I could have done without it, but they didn't know for sure, so they gave me this very nice little, like, hey, in case you're worried about, how does this chord work out?
Which I would have appreciated if I had this chart.
Yeah,
and was playing guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Like everyone's different, and so they gave it to me in case I need it. Then you've got some really nice swell notation here, because this first beat of rest is where I would play, and then I'd start swelling to get sound on beat 2. And it's just like a nice way for swells to be. And then with that space verb vibe, bro. Now this might seem just like a funny way of notating and telling me what to do, but it actually relaxes me. It gives me a feeling that, I'm a friend of the arranger and not the enemy who's here to destroy it. And having my name on the chart is helpful too.
They always did this at apartment sessions instead of necessarily saying the instrument or the first or second instrument or whatever. They always put your name, and it's really nice. I really appreciate it, and it's easier for them to pass it out also, but it makes you feel like you're part of the team. And it's especially cool when you have like 2 parts at once, like you're singing and playing or something, and you get a chart with those two parts integrated together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So here's my name on that one again. And this is very helpful notation right here to say with Michael. Because this other person who's playing bass is going to play the same line as me. So knowing that we're playing the same line is like a good way to know if I'm doing it right.
Right.
And then here's a duet with Jessie Cow.
Yeah.
And I know I'm playing with her.
They put a smiley face.
Yeah, they put a little smiley face.
It's
They
so
know
nice.
they know we're in love.
Yeah.
And then let notes ring when possible. These little circles mean open strings. Once again, this is a very guitar-friendly part, so that helps a lot. Now, if I keep going on, check this out.
Ooh.
So this, you're the 10th boy. You're the 10th boy. That relaxes me. They're telling me, hey, this is fun here, and then I play better. Now the 10ths. What could be easier on guitar than 10ths? I mean, some other stuff. 5ths, I guess.
Open strings.
Yeah, open strings. Just dropping it on the ground. But, like, the 10ths, this part here, so they could have just notated it, and that would have been fine. But they also wrote, like, what the chord that is implied by the 10th is. So I can just keep this one shape for 10ths and just think about my root. E to G to C to G to E minor to B to A minor. 1, 2, 3, C to whatever is next, D. I was right. And then this means to strum up. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then ba bum bum ba bum bum ba bum bum ba bum bum. All just really guitar friendly, really nice.
Ooh, people might
stuff.
not know what that means.
Yeah, so this is, whoops, what did I do? This is tremolo picking right here. So with the forte piano swell, so it's like that's how that sounds. Yeah. Now the next thing, so then there was the next page,
Bend at your own discretion.
yeah, bend at your own discretion. That's very helpful because, like, I know what to do with that. Like, you say bend at your own discretion, I know what to do. And then go to Funky Town, I know what to do. Like, C sharp 7, sus 4, C sharp 7. And we got that G sharp minor 7. Oops, A major 7 right here. Then that B flat 7 sharp 11. And then back to the textural scratchy pick noise from earlier. You know, it's just a chart that does not elicit fear in me.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a Jessica part.
Oh, yeah.
Do you recognize it?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is probably pretty helpful. The 8VA here.
Yeah, actually, we learned that is actually off of the bass, or my bass at least. I just wasn't able. That note doesn't exist.
It's too high.
It's too high.
So what'd you do?
I just played what's written.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, do you want me to do like a harmonic that's this note? And they were just like, no. Just do it at the 12th fret. And so I was like, okay. So, yeah, that was a G. And this also was really helpful because like an eighth note kind of part started somewhere in the A section, and it was there was music that, like, or the A section being where the singing started really helped anchor me. So that was basically just a universal truth for all of these charts. The singing starts at A, and so that's where I usually started counting. And yeah, this was like a pretty simple part here.
Mm-hmm.
just like a really beautiful one. And then this is the duet part.
Yeah.
So we played that together. And we were also in different rooms. So it was like helpful to know that we were going to be playing together, and we were playing to a click for this song.
Right.
So
that was helpful.
That just meant like I'm going to stick to the click as best I can, and Ben will stick to the click, and it'll sound good at the end.
Yeah. Check out letter L. That's fun.
So this song really, it was like a whole medley, and so this last part was really different. It just like took a turn, and that rhythm that starts at M was actually kind of throwing me off because the tempo had changed 2 times in this song, and so here we were starting at a new rhythm or a new tempo at L, and I had worked on this because I knew it was going to be kind of an exposed part. I was the only electric bass player, and nobody else had the part like Ben's parts. He was playing with other people. So something that really helped me was Drew, who played saxophone in that video that you saw. I asked him to help me out with that rhythm at measure 149, and it happens again. Because if you notice, each of these 4-bar phrases are the same, but are pretty similar to each other, but each bar is different from each other, has a different rhythm. And he told me that the measure 150 is really similar if I just ghosted this note. So I just basically copy and pasted this first part here, and just ghosted the note right before that bad boy, and that made me be able to understand the rhythm.
Instead of just thinking of it as hit,
yeah,
it's hit, hit.
Yeah.
Hit, hit. The is the ghost note.
The
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Da, da, da.
Yeah.
Da, da.
Yeah.
Da, ah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
So that was like one of my favorite moments. I felt like really supported and not like a dummy for asking help with the rhythm.
Right. Definitely not a dummy.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
What happens next? Nothing, right?
So it just continues like that part R,
Uh-huh.
and it happens 2 more times on the next page.
Yeah, so another nice looking chart. This chart is really cool. So this one definitely is like a learn it at home first kind of chart. Because there's a lot of very specific voicings. But once again, all these voicings are perfectly fine. Like on guitar, like you can see, they're 3-note voicings, 2-note voicings. Those are generally going to be no problem to play. These chord diagrams were definitely needed because if it had been just the notes, it would have looked so clunky. Like imagine like just like how many walls of chords there'd be if like every one of these slashes was, you know, a 3-note cluster. It's hard for guitarists to look at chords that are written out like like all the time. Like if it was always like this, that's kind of harder to look at. Pianists look at that, no problem. But Nick Kruger has arrived and exclaims, "Not a dummy trademark." Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for your money. Thank you. Getting the party started. So this, I want to play a little bit of this. So really cool voicings. So it starts out. Let's see. Let's see if you can see me. Boop, 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 boop. Yes. All right. So here's what we got. Starts out like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Now we're at A. Got it. And then this, that switch, it's very finger friendly. And then we have a very finger friendly moment. kid-friendly moments. And then this chord. Strum like this. Doesn't have to be exact. I know exactly what you mean by that, buddy. It's like... Now here, it wasn't necessary, once again, to have the chord chart for here because it's notated, but it certainly helps. Now we're at measure 32.
I remember. I know which one this is.
Check out these chords here. These are really cool. It's like... So that's definitely like a little harder because there's all these different chord charts to look at in advance, but because they're so natural on the guitar and easy to memorize, it was a good time. It was no problem. I picked this chart because it has, I think, like the coolest bass line I heard you do. What do you think?
Yeah, this one, it's not that crazy, like, in terms of what I'm playing. Like, there weren't, like, crazy riffs, but there were, like, riffs in really important places. There were 3, and 2 of them I just got from the recording of the song, but this song has, like, a really amazing bass line that is supporting, and then, like, moment to shine, supporting, moment to shine. And it was, like,
that's what these
so
are?
fun to play. Actually,
Or
later. So,
where's your big fill? This?
Yep, exactly. So there, and then also there, and then there was one. Yeah, here. Actually, yeah, you had it right.
Can I highlight it?
Yeah.
Kinda.
So, but it's also because of like what everyone else was doing. You know, this part, everyone came in at 57, so it's kind of like the use of the bass there was a lot like a drum fill, where it's just like kind of cueing everyone, like the listener, that the song is gonna get big and for everyone to come in.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't have very many parts that I write that are like that at all. So it was
not
like
a big filler.
I'm not a big filler. So this was really fun, actually, to just like have a couple of moments where I'm like, here we go, everybody.
Yeah, like here, like doom da doom da doom
yeah,
da
so
doom.
that part, that was one that I transcribed. And it was like this. It was like it was like a 2-measure one there, so it went from like this. Let's see. There you go. Back to my normal
that's a
part.
memorizer.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at your hands, right? Yeah, so like if you're just staring at the score, a thing like that is hard to get 100% of the time.
Yeah, and I definitely memorized it because that was like a week ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was a great moment. I was very proud of you.
Thank you.
So that's what I wanted to show you guys in terms of some of those scores. Very nice scores. So it made the whole thing a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really valuable lesson for all you arrangers out there. Now, Matt LaPierre says, wait, where is the comment? Oh, here. Alex Lacuzzo. I'm a music composition major who doesn't play guitar, so this is super helpful to me in terms of learning how to be friendly to my guitarist, so thank you. Yes, so guitarists like notation. They like notes, but we don't love big chunks of them. So if you can have a little chord diagram when it makes sense, like let's say you were notating something like this. It'd be nice just to see the rhythm written out, and with the chord notated once, like on the first one, and you say play the chord in like a groovy way with this rhythm or something like that. So you have that kind of written out as a rhythm with slashes, and then just the chord once, or a chord diagram over it. It's easier for me as someone who went to music school to read the notes than the chord diagram if I'm sight reading, but if I'm learning it, it's very helpful just to see what the composer had in mind. And also, if you don't play guitar, you can still like write a part and then go chord by chord to see like how crazy it is to move from one spot to the next. So like if you were moving from this to this, you wouldn't want it to be like da da dee do. That's just too impractical. But if it was like that's a pace that you could imagine someone doing most of the time.
I also had a thought about one of the only like last minute changes I heard during the like rehearsal and like, you know, figuring out how these arrangements sounded was octave shifts, and it usually was up. So for like the notes all written out, I think it would actually be easier if it were the chord symbol in that case.
You just slide it up.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was for like everyone's part, you know, it was for like the strings
all
and
the
like
strings.
Guitar parts, and I just in my own parts there were just moments where it was like this should be in a different octave, and it usually was the musician or the composer just being like, can we just try this? And so last minute changes, octave changes were like the big all the rage.
Yeah. So the trip was super educational musically. I think I got a lot better at music.
Yeah, me too.
There was one character there named Ethan Crystal who, you know, a lot of people have perfect pitch and it's impressive and nice, but some people, they just like seem like they're like the essence of music embodied in a human, and that was how I felt about him. And what he would do is like we'd be like we went to a music store at one point, and there was like a little vocoder sitting out, and he'd just be like just being himself, just making jokes, being like a silly guy, just like hanging out chilling, and then he'd be like, oh cool, there's a vocoder, all right, go up to it, and it's like better than Daft Punk, and he's doing Daft Punk, and it's like, wow, that guy should do Daft Punk. Like that's way better than you're just like, he makes the vocoder into like the most awesome instrument, and then I went on it afterwards. I was like, wow, that was cool. I'm gonna go on the vocoder now, and it's like and I don't know how, but it's this little thing about like how he approached it, where it came alive with him. And so there were a lot of like everybody who was on the trip had this kind of magic to them in some different way. Like it's, you know, I'm not even just saying that to be all inclusive. Like it really was the case that everyone had like a superpower.
Yeah.
Once again, it's not all because they went to school, but it's because of this like true dedication to music and like the art of it, and like taking it in, you know, not just like doing it outward and proving some point, but like really just being really in the moment with the music. And
I have another example of magic. So Ben makes all these jokes about daddy and doggy,
about daddy, doggy, doctor, doggy. I like those words, daddy and doggy and doctor.
And so I think at one point you just went like, thank you, daddy. And then like the horn section like arranged themselves and called Ben over and were like, look at this thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull that up.
Yeah.
I have to turn off airplane mode, but but go on while I do that.
Well, it's just that.
Yeah.
So, nothing else.
I'll pull up Thank You Daddy because it was such a funny time.
Yeah. And also, like, just a fun, crazy thing that happened. We were filming us playing baseball, and a saxophone player named Jared Yee, like, soloing and, like, using his pedals to, like, affect himself. And it was just this, like, beautiful, like, activity that we were doing in, like, the hot Georgia sun. And then the drone that we were filming with got caught in this tree, like, 100 feet up, and so we just brainstormed probably like 10 different ways to try to get this drone out of the tree. We tried making a pole with a really long person to pull the branches down and shake them. Long person.
Yeah, and we took a cooler and attached rope to it and slingshotted it over into the tree and got it stuck in the branches, and we're yanking on it.
And then the thing that finally did it, that people were doing the whole time, was just throwing baseballs and tennis balls near it to try to get it to shake enough to come down. And Ben had the idea of us having a blanket spread out to catch it, because drones are very fragile, and we weren't necessarily gonna get it if we just like caught it with a mitt or whatever.
Thank you, Daddy.
Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy.
The ultimate Instagram on a live stream. So yeah, anyway, things like that were happening all the time. It was awesome. Yeah. Now, there is like a certain conflict with this, which is I'm telling you about this amazing time I had playing music with these awesome musicians, and like anyone would envy that. And I hate being like braggy or like making people envy stuff I do. And what I'll say though is the thing that is like so amazing to me is the reason it went to Atlanta, like the reason Apartment Sessions had this trip in Atlanta, was to bring the thing that I'm talking about to other people in another place besides New York City. And we played with just all kinds of people of all kinds of like backgrounds, and they're intending to keep doing these trips and like go to places and bring it. And I just think it's so inspiring as just a way to further make jadedness something that you would have to work really hard to fall into, rather than something that we naturally sort of sink into. And I just think it's like so cool that they're focused not only on building it and having fun with it, but sharing it. And the ultimate example of this is one day on the trip, we did a day of service, kind of like giving back stuff. And we went to an immigrant detention center in the middle of Georgia, in a place called Lumpkin, Georgia, which is totally isolated, really hard to get to no matter where you live. And all these immigrants are detained there. Some are seeking asylum. Some people had they got in trouble for something, and then they end up basically in a prison. I
mean, it literally used to be a prison.
Yeah, it's a prison. Yeah, like the differences are just what's the semantic.
They have games.
They have but it sucks. Like you go there, it's like a soul crushing, spirit destroying place. And anyway, we went there and we had conversations and like visited people who couldn't have visits because it's in the middle of nowhere, and a lot of these folks' families are spread out all over the world, and they can't be visited while they're there, and they're just stuck there waiting. They don't know how long they're going to have to wait or what they're waiting for, mostly to get deported. And we went and had a conversation and with someone there, and it was just this amazing thing that it was like the Apartment Sessions people's idea to do it, and we would never have done that. We never would have been able to or thought to do it if it wasn't for that. And so I really want to emphasize, really support these folks, not just because they create a fun musical environment, but because they are really committed to improving the world, basically. And they've improved our world, and they've improved a lot of people's world already, and they're coming for you, they're just a really positive, wonderful force. So it's not all about just hanging out with dope musicians having a good time. It's a really a healing thing that exists, and it's you can see it in the videos, but the real work, the real project with this is to get that beauty and that familial feeling further and to more people. And I hope you have people to jam with, and that you can get in on that musical connection, and that you're having a good day, and that you're practicing. Even when you're all alone, practicing music, that's a good way to feel connected with something greater than the stinky clothes I'm wearing and my dirty floor, covered in dust and trash. Yeah, so that's really all I wanted to do today in terms of the syllabus, but I would like to take some questions from you. If you have any, really about anything. Music is the easiest, but really anything. I really am glad you're here. Thank you, Jessica, for being a special guest.
No problem.
It's very good. Jessica lives right over there,
Right next
and
door in
it's
this
real
room.
nice. And I'd like to really thank Orball591 for your $5 donation and Nick Kruger for your $2 donation. I'm trying to be an adult and make money like a real man, a real person, and not be like. I want to be responsible and like have an income stream if that's possible. So people being here, doing the super chat, Patreon, just watching the videos, I really appreciate all the various ways that having this platform helps me. Haha, it helps me. Port Wayne says, I love you. I love your track. I love you. Track. I love your... Sorry, here we go. This is what Port Wayne says. Here we go. Are you ready? I love you track. This is a piece of art. Thank you. We love our Love You track.
Yeah. We love
thank
our
you very
love.
much. If you don't know it, I'll just play a little bit of it. This is a fun song. So now you know. All right, do we have some questions here? All right, so how would you harmonize a chromatic scale? Ooh, I love that question. So there are infinite, well, I don't know about infinite. There are many ways you could do it. You can do it on guitar here. All right, so we'll sing the chromatic scale.
Sorry, you know what?
So we'll be like, yeah. We'll go up to there. So, yeah. All right, we'll do one note at a time. Now, a couple tricks. As long as there's some amount of voice leading happening, as long as, like, I don't know. I don't really think there's a way for it to be bad, honestly. I'll just try the first thing I try and see if that's good. I think that's pretty good. Let's try it going down.
Sounds very nice.
There's really no wrong way to do it, I think, as long as the melody note is on top. I'll tell you the chord names as I go this time. All right, let's try this. So F with G as the 9, F minor with A flat on top, then A diminished with A on top, then C minor 7 with B flat on top, and then A minor 9 with the B on top. Now next we have our C, right, and it's an A flat 7 with C on top, which is the 3rd, B minor 9 with the C sharp on top, and then we got this D on top for an E minor 7, there's the D, and then E flat with E flat on top. We'll go up a half step to E with E on top, and then we're going to make it G flat major 7 with F on top,
That's nice.
and then we're going to go to G major 7 with F sharp on top, and then we're going to go to E minor 7. Actually, I want to go, this is E7 sharp 5 sharp 9 with G on top. All right, so what's up? What's funny?
You're
I keep almost
you were-
hitting you.
No. You were hiding my eyes, and I made my eyes really big.
Very nice. Cool trick. Yeah, so let's see what else we got.
We got Joseph Alvarez.
Oh, hey, Joseph.
How my tour was with Courtney.
Jessica was just on a tour of the West Coast with Courtney Swain, our bandmate in Bentley. How was it?
It was very good. So I am in this group called Justice Cow, which for this tour I just did solo. So it was just me and Courtney sang her stuff, Courtney Swain stuff, and then we played a few songs together sometimes. And it was a really big deal for me because I had only played by myself once before in my whole life. And so I had to do a lot of that, a lot of crowd work, a lot of jokes, a lot of making people sad, and it was really meaningful. Like, what a trip. We had a really nice time. We ate good food, we got to see the ocean, we maybe saw a shark, we had to try and look at some seals, it was scary. It just, I learned a lot, and I grew a lot as a musician.
I'm going to see if I can find the Master of Lady Liberty.
Okay.
Let's listen. This is a Justice Cow song.
Not released yet.
Not released yet. Should we do the lip sync?
Yeah.
You can hear it, right?
Binging my favorite shows with cake. I slow down with some opiates so I don't fear the end of days. Spitting out my tooth in Coca-Cola, looking to the center of a hamburger. I'm trying to find the prize. It's eating me alive. It's my turn to fall apart, keeping in step with disasters at my feet. Washed up rubber, God, embarrassing. It's my turn to fall apart, teabag by the pendulum swinging. I'm your thrown out lady liberty. I'm your thrown out lady liberty. I'm your thrown out lady liberty. Hitching up my dress for firefighters, grab my ankles, investment bankers, middle of the street, crown at my feet, digging through trash for cans and bottles, found a pretty penny with my old man on it, laying down on train tracks and wipe his face clean. It's my turn to fall apart, keeping in step with disasters at my feet. Washed up copper, God, embarrassing. It's my turn to fall apart, sucker punched by the pendulum swinging. When you're thrown out, lady liberty. I'm your thrown out lady liberty. I'm your thrown out
That was Jessica Justice Cow Kyan's new song, Lady Liberty, brought to you by music on my computer that I have to show you. That was the world premiere. There will be more world premieres of that one, but that's just for y'all. Now, if you are watching right now and you want to watch this again, I would recommend saving the link to the stream because I leave everything unlisted for my patrons. But there's no reason why you can't enjoy this more if you just keep the link, keep it in a little document somewhere. But that was Lady Liberty by Justice Cow. Let's see, any more questions? We're about to wrap it up. We do our nice 2-hour show. It's been pretty good, I'd say. Pretty good show. Do you all have any questions? Any requests for next time? Any criticisms? Any like deep secret? Do you hate us? Do you hate me? What do I do that you hate?
Oh no!
Let's see.
Thank you for the nice things about the song.
Yeah.
You're the first ones.
Yeah,
It's like Ben, Randy Ruse, and
Josh
Friedman and Courtney Swain have
They've
heard that
heard it.
song.
Yeah,
And
now all y'all.
Yeah.
I want to make nice arrangements like Illinois by Sufjan Stevens, strings, horns, choir, but I feel like all those instruments will make it muddy and sound poop. How can I do this and make it sound clear? Well, that's true. They often do make things sound poop, but what I would do is I would consider what is the focal point in the moment and how can you emphasize the focal point. So the answer to that question is generally going to be the vocals. Whenever the vocals are happening, let the flourishes and the crazy stuff happen between phrases. If you're going to do vocal harmonies, let the vocal harmonies either be really tight with the vocals and just bringing out the vocal melody even more, or if they're going to be like oohs and ahs and choral stuff, when you record them or stage them, have them be like further back so they've got a more roomy vibe, or just have them sing quieter. Like if you give them the dynamic instructions of like, hey, please sing like breathy, for instance, if they're like, oh, then if the main vocals are like close to the mic and being like, sitting by myself, doggy daddy, then it will be okay. Horns, not during the vocals. You could be
between.
Between. You could be like, listen all the man, burp, burp, what I need to do, bop, bop, dee dee da bop, wait, bop, dee. That's not always true, but I would listen to Illinois in particular and take note of when do these things happen.
Something I noticed, because we love that album, was like a lot of times when you hear those instruments, it's like an instrumental section, and like one section of those instruments, like horns or woodwinds or whatever, are taking the melody and are the main focus. Right. Everything's only happening when things are really big and, like Ben said, between
yeah,
phrases or
if
words. You
have the horns go ba and hold a thing, then the vocals can be active over that too. If the horns are like bop, 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 it might be really hard to get the melody of the vocals out there. Great
also
question.
Consider the range.
Oh yeah.
That's a little bit we were talking about with the Apartment Sessions octave stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The vocal range for most people is in the middle of like guitar and piano ranges, and so you want to leave as much space open in those instruments that share that range while the person is singing. Yeah,
totally. And I'd like to thank Jade Hales very much for $3.99. Thanks for everything, y'all. Thank you, Jade.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And Eric Mattingly.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is going straight into our baby fund. Someday we're going to be daddies.
Yeah.
But not for like 7 years at least.
Probably then.
We don't even know.
We don't know. We don't know.
We're too broke to have kids in America. All right, here we go. We got some hate. The only thing I hate that you do is wiping your honker with everything else other than a tissue. I've been doing that since I was like a baby. It's like a tick I have. I just do that. It's not even wiping. It's just itching. But you're right. You're right. Thank you very much for the hate. Appreciate it. Not everyone's got the guts to hate me. All right, so Ben, so we got Kushagra Shah. Ben, you are hands down the best human being and such a humble human. I learned so much from you, especially your music theory series. You're literally a godsend. Wish you the best. Love from India.
Wow.
We want to send you that love right back, straight to you in India. Thank you very much. I'm glad the theory course thing, music theory from the ground up, is useful to you. I'm glad I made it. I really worked hard on it, and it's great that years later, I mean, at this point, 6 years later since I made that series, people are still impacted by it. I think it works. I think it's good. There's only one mistake in it that really matters, which is I say that a 6th chord is when you have a 1, 3, 6, and the 5 turns into the 6, but it's actually 1, 3, 5, 6, but everything else is right. All right, so Nick Kruger says you can learn a lot about Sufjan's approach to horn arrangement from the album Michigan, which is almost stereotypically Sufjan. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Do I have any jazz-related guitar lessons? Anthony Martinez asks. Well, yes. I have a series on the drop 2 voicings that I think is really relevant to the jazz vocabulary, and specifically on guitar. So I think it's called something like Jazz Chords or something, stupid like that. Let's see, Ben Levin,
You also
Drop
have
2.
the Giant Step series.
That's a good point. So this is called Good, Easy to Play 7th Chord Voicings with Dr. Levin, Part 1 and 2. That's definitely a jazz guitar lesson. And then, the ultimate jazz series I did is Let's Learn Giant Steps. It's a 10-part series that works on learning Let's Learn Giant Steps. In fact, it works so well that I couldn't play Giant Steps before I started making the series. I knew how I could learn to because of school, but I hadn't done it yet. And I did it as I wrote as I was recording the series, and that's how I learned to play Giant Steps.
My favorite one is number 9, where Ben just goes outside and he's very overwhelmed with learning Giant Steps.
Right.
And
I'm just like...
sometimes you take a break.
Sometimes you gotta take a break. Yeah, totally.
It's really cute.
That was honestly, that was like back then, everyone on YouTube, I think, well, at least I was way too long-winded, not to the point enough. But I think it works. I think it's a good series. I still stand by all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got, do you have, all right, this is good advice. For me, as someone getting into making mashups, it can be difficult to balance the vocal points of 2 songs when you want both their distinctive qualities to come out. Yeah, for sure.
I can imagine that.
All right, from Professor Whom. Any tips for a musician with a jazz and classical background learning to play more contemporary styles of music? Yes. So jazz has the improv in it, and then classical has a real emphasis on technique. And if you just take the work ethic you apply to classical and learn you could learn like a Jimi Hendrix song and then improvise over the chords, and you'd start to get like that sound into your system using the same methods that you use to learn jazz and classical music. So like you could just apply that.
I think if you're talking like real contemporary, like right now, I think rhythm is one of the biggest parts of what makes like the music now. And I think like starting from like learning some of those grooves, no matter what instrument you play, will be really beneficial to making it feel like it's a current thing.
That's a great answer, because the rhythm is like the fundamental piece of it.
I would say like in pop music especially, like the rhythm is almost like more important than the notes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was saying that earlier.
Oh really?
Yeah, before you got here. Yeah. And that's good for like the question. I play guitar for a long time, and I'm good at technique, and as a lead guitarist, sometimes I feel I struggle because of rhythm. I would specifically practice playing rhythms like with your hands, and like on a piano or on your desk, and like spend some time just thinking about rhythm, and then spend some time just thinking about rhythm on guitar, and like leave playing lead. Like basically think of lead as rhythm for a while too. Like see how rhythmic you can make your lead playing. And so one thing you can do, I'm just going to focus on da 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 ba ba da 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 ba ba da, that one rhythm, and I'm going to emphasize playing as tight as I can with that one rhythm. Ba 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 da. So that emphasizing just one rhythm in my lead playing and focusing on getting that tight, I think, is the key. So we're about to wrap up. When is the next stream? Good question. It's going to be, I can tell you when it's going to be. It's going to be on Sunday, the 28th of September. We'll have the next stream. And do you have something to say?
Yeah, I saw someone asked if you struggle with rhythm or continue to work on rhythm, and definitely both of us continue to work on rhythm.
We've got to.
And there's a really great app that I found recently called Rhythm Game.
If you plug it into here, I think.
Okay, I'll be right back.
So this will be the last little segment, but this app is really cool. It's free, right?
I think it's $4.
Okay, it's a $4 app, but it really is. Or two, but it's really cool. And we have nothing to do with this app. We are not sponsoring them, but it definitely works. Here we go. Thank you, everyone, for the nice comments.
Rhythm Game, one word, and it's only available for iPhone users, which I know is a big bummer.
Yeah, that sucks.
But it's a really great resource for those of you who are able to.
Maybe it will give you ideas if you don't have an iPhone on how you could practice.
Yeah.
So let's take a look if this actually worked. No.
No.
All right. So anyway, we're gonna show it. We could show
Okay.
it like. All right. Well.
Yeah.
I want to make it work on the thing. I spent so much no money on this setup. I spent zero money on this setup. It's got to work. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be too clumsy.
Okay. So basically, it has like 4 pages of 12 rhythms, and you play it like a game. So you advance after you've like mastered each rhythm, and it starts with quarter notes, and it gets into clave rhythms and Latin rhythms and Afro-Cuban rhythms, and it gets harder and harder, and eventually like you play with like 2 thumbs, and you're going like boom ticka boom ticka and like crazy things, and it tells you how accurate you are.
So maybe we'll just tell them the name of it. I can't get it up, so we'll just say, what's the name of the app again?
Rhythm Game, one word.
Rhythm Game.
Rhythm Game.
That's it.
Yeah.
Rhythm Game. That's
Game.
pretty easy. All right, so everybody, thank you very much for being here, for all your kind words, for your great questions, for helping each other out. I hope that you continue practicing music forever, and that it's something that makes you feel good about yourself, because you're putting in the time. You're proving that you care about tomorrow when you work on it today.
Yeah.
All right.
Beautiful.
See you later. Bye-bye.